I think these new councillors are making these individuals accountable. Like once upon a time, it was 9 to 2, and motions just passed through, and it was quickety click, Barbara trick. But I think these new councillors that have come in are using their extraordinary education and skills. And, I know like Nick Elliott used to be the marketing manager of Perisher. So he's got a phenomenal skill set there. Like Ruben is an emeritus professor in vet science, and he's got a lot of background in like business and managing CEOs and whatnot.
Welcome to the Monaro Zone, where local voices tell the real story of life, business, and leadership in the Snowy Monaro. In this episode, I sit down with Shawny, a seasoned resort operator and longtime resident of Jindabyne. Over the past 30 years, she's watched the town evolve from a seasonal stopover to a destination in its own right, and she's been at the front lines of that transformation. But it hasn't all been growth and glory. In our wide-ranging conversation, Shawny opens up about the challenges facing local tourism, including poor council planning, rising red tape, and a landfill failure that's left the community frustrated and exposed. We also dig into the increasingly political nature of community groups like the Jindabyne Chamber of Commerce, the dysfunction inside the council chamber, and the urgent need for local leadership that actually listens. From bike trails and skate parks to fire safety and free speech, Shawny doesn't hold back. If you care about the future of Jindabyne, or any rural community trying to navigate the weight of bureaucracy, this one's worth your time. Let's get into it.
Shawny, it's great to see you again. Welcome back to Australia.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
So, as one of the premier operators of lodges in Jindabyne, thank you for sharing your time and wisdom with us. Can you tell us how you came to run a resort here and what drew you to Jindabyne?
All right. Okay. Well, I guess my schooling started off in Canada. So I went to university there and did a science degree. And then I ended up doing a degree in international business and finance. So, and I did that pretty much at the same time as I was involved with running a hotel up in Perisher. So it was quite a large hotel, and I did that for 8 years. And then I moved on from that, and I bought a place here in Jindabyne. We went through significant, restoration of an old lodge. So it used to be called Corroboree Lodge, and we renovated it and brought it up to like code or standard or whatnot. So I've been running that, raising my 2 girls, beautiful girls who are both, they love life and they're traveling now. They've just finished school. So I've spent, I guess, better part of over 20 years here in Jindabyne. But I've been in the area for 30. So it's a long time.
That is a long time. So what's it like running a tourism business in a town that swells and shrinks with each season?
Yeah, sure. When I originally got here, Jindabyne was just a town that people drove through. I don't think anyone was really even using the lake. They didn't see it as an asset. Australians have been sort of brought up mostly to go to the coast, go to the beach. So as soon as the ski season was over, they were hightailing it out of here. And you can see that by places that were developed here in Jindabyne, like, for example, Horizons. They put the restaurant on the roadside when, the asset is actually the lake, right? We've got a beautiful asset here. So over the years, it used to be just a drive-through. And then as the years went by, we had more and more people moving to the area. And I really saw probably a massive takeoff around 2009. And that was the introduction of biking, which really put Jindabyne on the map. With the likes of, there's quite a few guys here in the region that were, I think, before their time, like Craig Stonestreet and Paul Gardner. There was also Mick Langdon he's now running a bike shop down in Ulladulla. And they spent their time building trails because they were in love with mountain biking. So it sort of came from a real grassroots. And I really saw, I really saw a big change. And that change was in 2009. We originally just had summer was everyone ran away. So anyone that did have a business here, like prior to that, so we bought our business in 2002, you traded for winter, but there was not really enough significant trading over the entire summer period, including Christmas, to really open your doors. So it was a welcome change having this mountain biking, playground sort of open up here in Jindabyne. And I guess one of the big, that was a big driver.
Have the last few seasons been really good?
Well, it ebbs and flows. So we've noticed a really big drop in mountain biking numbers over the last couple of years. And I think that's pretty much due to the fact that you've got a lot of these people that used to come here. Like I've noticed a big drop, especially this summer, but I do believe Australia is sort of sitting on the precipice of a recession, or if it's not in one already. But we've got, development of mountain bike, really extraordinary mountain bike trails down in Eden, Ulladulla, Narooma, and now you've got a big $10 million trail development out of Tumbarumba. So, we've really got to be on the ball here because we are a destination, right? Cooma's not a destination. That's the problem with our region. We've got mixed products. We've got a product in Cooma that's more farming and industrial, and then we've got this region that's more based on tourism. So
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because council is a pivotal part to how this region develops. What's been your experience dealing with council over these years? Any wins or any frustrations?
Well, once upon a time, the council structure was very different. So a lot of people that went on to council were families or members of families that have lived in the region. So they're very passionate. I think if you've lived here for a long time, you become very passionate about the region. So you saw a lot, there was a lot more caring and a lot more, less of a bureaucratic role back in the olden days, is what I could say. But a lot of the fun things that were developed around Jindabyne were community, came from the community itself. It didn't come from council. So the walkway around the lake was, I believe it was sort of started and put in by the Lions Club, who did an extraordinary job of putting in all the segments. The lake facilities, the children's facilities, I believe it was another local individual who sought the funding out, and that was put in. We did have some, like, for example, I guess with snowboarding in the mountains really taking off, in parallel you have skateboarding with that. And years ago, what should have been probably a world-class skateboard area here in Jindabyne turned into an absolute disaster. And that was from council. That was 100% from council. So that money, a majority of the money got tied up in, what do you call the, planning or proposal fees, or independent people to give advice. So there was a lot of money that was tied up in that. And instead of a skateboard park, which should have been in 4 amazing sections, the skateboard park right now, if you went back and you looked at the plans, it would be double the size of what it is right now. We had the money to do that, and it got taken up in the whole planning. The money, what I believe, from what I understand, got taken up in that consultants' fees, which were exorbitant, and it's very disheartening. I know that I think Bart and Susie from the snowboarding shop ran a bit of a fundraiser to see if they could raise money to put some sort of a skateboard park in, and I think you can thank them for the existing infrastructure that we had for many years, and you can thank them for that, and to all the local people who put in for its development, right? But once again, we were very disappointed from council. That was a massive letdown to our community. So it has been hard.
I've heard that complaint quite frequently, that in previous years council seemed to be more community orientated, whereas today it does certainly seem like a big bureaucracy that you have to deal with, even for the littlest things.
100%. Like we can have a look at the sailing club. The sailing club was pretty much just community based. It was maintained. It was, even developed just by local individuals here in the community who put in for grants, received grants, had successful clubs operating out of that. And, I heard that wasn't only just a few years ago that they had to apply now to tender to be in the building, number one. And
Could you just repeat that point again? That this club that's been operating on the lake for decades now needs to put in tenders.
Yeah, to exist there.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and but not only that, in the clauses, I've heard that once upon a time they used to do all of their own like maintenance and work, whatnot, on the building itself, and that's why it's a beautiful building. Like I've done years ago, going back 15 years ago, I used to do yoga there. There was all sorts of activities that used to occur out of the sailing club's building. But now they have to, they're not allowed to do their own maintenance, is what I heard. You'd have to clarify that. But if that's the case, I think that's a bit of a shame. So it's things like that just,
cross the community spirit.
Yeah. And then, another beautiful thing that I think is the Neller Foundation. They went and put in the Frisbee golf that went around the lake. And I know that was such a huge thing, especially for the kids. It's so nice to walk by and see them, walking around and even in winter. Like, so it's become an attraction even in winter. But it's local people like that put in these things. I do believe that Manuela Birchall put in I think she put in a grant to do there's a gym near that got destroyed when the high water mark came up. And I guess the frustrating part for our community, and I'm hearing a lot of this, especially people that just live on my street here, is that they drive through Kuma and they see the flowers and they see this and they see that. Now, we're a destination, actually a tourist destination where people come to have a holiday. And so we've got issues with, beautification. The trees, the dead trees that were around the lake, that was for over 2 years. That's I know council is stretched with regards to the vast distances that they have to maintain, but it was a real disappointment for locals. But not only that, it was also a real danger because you had these dead trees that could have fallen on anyone, right? Yeah.
So how would you describe the current relationship between council and local businesses?
I think like once upon a time, I think it was pretty good. Like I guess I've had my business 23 years now. And what I've seen is more red tape, that we have to go through. Like, for example, they put these lodges through a lot of the fire rating, and like I had to put double rated fire rating, hardwired fire alarms, fire doors that cost $6,000 each. There was a lot that I had to do to my building, and what I saw as a problem that council really never acted on. We had a lot of Airbnbs that all of a sudden turned up in our region without this having to go through this same, requirements as what, and it was very disappointing. I had friends come down actually and stay in an Airbnb, and they had no a fire alarm or anything like that whatsoever. And I went over there and I was quite shocked at.
So it doesn't seem fair that there's two different rules for two different sets of people.
100%. And another thing is I have a commercial building in Berrydale, and just only recently, so it would be going back a year and a half ago, council so if a business starts up in my building, normally they would ring council and say, I need rubbish services or waste services, and a couple bins would be dropped off. Now, it's normally the responsibility of the business owner to look after the bins and pay for their own rubbish. So council have reversed that, and they've put the onus on the owner of the building, which is ludicrous. It's like, you order a pizza and you book it to your landlord, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. So lumbering, local, owners and operators with unnecessary red tape is what I've seen over the years. And,
If they make it easy for one, they should make it equally easier for the other.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to pay for a product. It doesn't make sense that you have nothing to do with. It's not your business. The business operates in your building. That has nothing to do with you. But I think council, rather than, it's just made it an easy way for council to chase money, because you get lumbered, the actual business owner or the owner of the building gets lumbered with those costs, and
you can't run away.
No. So I did ask council a few years ago because I had another business up in the Newcastle area, and it was completely the opposite. So, if you have a commercial building, a business moves in, it's up to them to pay for their own rubbish. I don't know why council, made this decision, but it also goes against the Tenancy Act as well. So what happens is these bills are sent late. Okay, so if you've your rubbish bill for June, you probably won't get that till maybe the end of July, and then when they're closing in on a lease, you're normally only given 2 weeks, right? So, and you have to, by law, I believe the real estate agents do have to hand their bond back. There's only a certain amount of time, so it's in contradiction with all of those laws, right? So anyway.
Do you feel there's any real understanding from council of what business owners are actually going through, especially during this time of the cost of living crisis?
Well, I think it being so Kuma-centric, especially recently with the amalgamation, I don't think they get it at all. And for reasons what I've just described, Again, like we're
Have you heard
all,
about the recent landfill issue?
yeah.
Have you been impacted by that landfill issue?
Well, I think that this landfill, from what I understand, I mean, it's not far from me, from where I live. The last thing that I heard, it had a 5-year life on it, and they recently got a new weighbridge. So, how much that weighbridge, what was the cost of that to the ratepayers? I have no idea, but it seems a bit ludicrous that you would spend all this money on a weighbridge to only close a tip. And I think you have to, like, we're only 4,000 residents here. I think 4,600 to be precise. So, where did all this waste come from? And was it coming from various parts of the region? And I think that if that's the case, it's really unfair that this has occurred. But my bigger concerns are as well is that, one is safety. I mean, I'm worried about the people that are working in this facility. I was there on a windy day. I mean, you could see, it looked like where the asbestos trench was, that there was just a lot of wind and debris flying through the air. Has anybody managed to even sample the air quality there? So there's concerns about that, but also even the running of the tip itself. So like the recycling center, it was never open. So I would have these wonderful items that were too good to throw in the tip. So I thought, well, and I had a lot of my neighbors as well and business associates here in Jindabyne that would, try to drop off stuff as well. Sorry, we can't take your goods because the recycling center is full. Well, it's full because at the end of the day, it's never open, right? And, so I think there's a bit of mismanagement going on there. I think they try and do the right thing. And I know it's been a real challenge for the guys working in the tip because they've had no, weighbridge, right? So it's been very difficult for them as well to, what do we do here? They've got to somehow, come up with a plan, right? Yeah, 100%. So anyway, it's a bit sad, but we shouldn't, with the amount of tourism coming to this region, like things shouldn't be closing. That reflects a lack of planning, a lack of foresight on council. And we've seen this now, like I've been watching this council now for most of the time that I've been in this region, but really more telescopically for the last 6 years. Things have changed around a little bit. So we've, back in the day, it was, back 6 years ago, it was 9 councillors, aggressive councillors against 2, right? We saw a lot of bullying in that time within the council chambers, at least the videos that I saw or witnessed. And, so now that's sort of changed back a little bit, so which is nice to see. But it's really important that people get involved in their communities. And it's hard for people to get involved in their communities, especially Jindabyne, because they're transient, right? They come here for summer or whatnot. They used to just come here for a short time. So, but it is important to get involved at the moment. We're like geopolitically, we're in a very bad place. Australia's in a very bad place at the moment, both, financially, and sort of structurally as well.
I suppose you have a lot of insight in this because of all your travels between Canada and Australia.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a bit more later on in the piece. But do you think this mismanagement of the landfill is just a one-off issue, or is it a symptom of deeper dysfunction within the council?
Sure. I think a lot of the dysfunction has come through at a more of a federal and a state level. These forced amalgamations have been absolutely disastrous with every council. I mean, you're seeing it right across Australia now. So, like, our region has 22,000 residents, and we have a CEO that takes on a wage just a little bit lower than the Prime Minister of Australia. And that's unacceptable, completely unacceptable. And then when you add, like, you've got a chief strategy officer, a chief financial officer, and a chief operations officer on top of all of that, that are up around the $300,000 mark. I mean, we've never seen that before. When our councils operated years ago, there used to be a general manager, and then there would be the councillors that would take on a token wage because they were doing civic duty. The big problem and the very big concern is that we've changed into somehow corporations, right? We've went down the corporations road, and I think the member for local government, I remember watching a clip. He addressed this issue, the amalgamations. And they brought in a bill in May 2024 it was called the De-Amalgamation Bill 2024. And it was to give $5 million pretty much, I think, to every community that was forced together to help untangle themselves. And this is where we need to go back. We need to go back to communities. Because the distance between, like, our area is just so vast with, like, Bombala, Cooma, Jindabyne, the distances are just killing it. And it's nice when you're doing something for your community. Most Australians love doing stuff for the community because, they're making it better for, everyone. They're making it better for their children. They're making it better for their grandparents, But when we have a bureaucratic sort of implant come in, it rips apart our communities is what it does. Like, and I'm of the understanding, I know when I was talking to Councillor Bob Stewart, he was telling me that Bombala had a surplus of money before the amalgamation. I think it was to the tune of $10 million. It had a fully functioning operational pool, and, it graded, and it extraordinarily, they did their own roads and they sealed their own roads. And now they're left with crumbling roads, a pool that's not open. I mean, that's on council. But let's bring it back to the beginning. This is a purposely driven manifesto from state government to collapse all councils and to steal the infrastructure that's here. This is what I'm seeing. The infrastructure being the old age homes, all the assets that council own, this is a manifesto to sell them all off so that there is no power in local communities.
Have you seen any community groups rise up and try and fulfill these functions?
Yeah, well, there was a group that was put together from our entire region, Snowy Monaro Residents and Ratepayers Association. They did some wonderful things. And I think it's really just bringing awareness to the community because we are all so busy and we are so burdened with, like right now I'm doing my taxes. So it's like we're burdened with so many things, including our families, that we have to pick and choose what we spend our time on. But it's getting to the point now where our government is not working for the people, okay? And this is what every Australian needs to realize. Our government's not working for the people, and they're purposely putting together legislation to crush every community in Australia, to make them broke, and to consume those assets into corporate structures. That's what I see.
Has the Jindabyne Chamber of Commerce been of any assistance?
They've been operating for quite a long time, the Jindabyne Chamber of Commerce. And I think because Jindabyne has changed a lot with the house pricing, house prices that have arisen here in the community, there's been a real big changing of the guard. So a lot of families that used to live here sold up when the prices are good and left. So we've got a new group in the chamber. They've been doing an extraordinary job on multiple levels. I am a little bit disappointed about the recent ban of a group with Andrew Thaler. I'm a little bit disappointed that they decided to ban him from the event.
That seems awfully political for a community-oriented group to be taking sides.
Yeah. Look, I think like we live in such hard times at the moment that we all just need to pull together. And to be quite frank, I'm really disappointed in the Chamber of Commerce in making this decision.
Why don't we start from the beginning? What's happened recently?
Well, they have their awards. Look. I've been out of the country for 5 months, so looking after my mother. But I am aware that they're putting on an awards night, which is well needed within the community. There's so many businesses here that are doing extraordinary things, and they really do deserve to be acknowledged. And it gives them that hope because I think it's, times are tough. Times are really tough. All the businesses that I have spoken to, especially in summer, this has been a really, with the fires in 2019, then we had COVID, and now we're just in a massive lull, right? And we need to turn that around, and we need things like the Jindabyne Chamber of Commerce to rally and bring people together, which they have. But I am a bit concerned about this decision that they made. I know Andrew, although he's controversial, as far as I'm concerned, he's turned up to many events, including council functions and whatnot, and it's ran very well. So I don't see why that they've pulled this move. I think, to be quite frank, it's discrimination, and it's verging on bullying. And it's the pot calling the kettle black, right?
How so?
Well, like at the moment we have, just on a sort of a larger scale, like we see, bullying in our schools, and it's systemic, and it's very problematic. I think if you talk to any school principal, they'll school you in this issue. We don't need it in our community organizations that are supposed to represent everybody. I think if there's bad behavior, well, then fair enough. Like the person exhibiting the bad behavior will pay with being ejected out of the event, or there will be a cost to that. But to do that is, I think it's a
bad precedent.
Yeah, it's a bad precedent to set.
Do you think a lot of local businesses feel pressure to stay silent or play along with the ruling bloc?
I think a lot of businesses really don't know. And I feel that this is an issue between a few individuals. And we need to be big girls and boys, to be quite frank. Like, I worked in London years ago, for Citibank. And at the end of the day, times were tough for a girl working in that sort of environment, but we all have to put on our big girl and boy pants on And we've got to show leadership in our community. We need to show leadership, and we need to be cohesive. And with a major organization behaving like this, I think it's a little bit, well, it's not professional.
Seems very juvenile.
Yeah, it's not professional, and it shouldn't be accepted. And I stand by that. I just think that people have got to get rid of their egos and put that all aside and focus more on the community instead of focusing on themselves.
You've been critical of the current council majority, which a lot of locals refer to as the gang. What's your biggest concern about their leadership at this stage?
Well, I guess my big thing with council is the way that they speak to each other in council meetings. I think it's very disgraceful. And I think that this is what people are seeing when they turn on the video. They're seeing eyes rolling. They're seeing, we just want mature adults to run our area in the most efficient manner they can. And so it's sort of like a bit like a school circus, really, is what I see. I'm also disappointed that, as you find out later, I don't think that there was enough disclosure with regarding some councillors and their relationship.
Do you want to provide some examples of that?
To businesses, right? Yeah, so I'm going to stay away from that at this point. I guess I could, but they know who they are. They know who they are.
Certain clothing providers, perhaps?
Yeah, but, it goes telecommunications. Like, Linda Summers was she
On the board.
She was on the board of a telecommunications IT provider of services to our region, and that was never disclosed. And, when you start going through the accounts, the IT services,
over $1 million every year,
and they're quite extraordinary. So we have to ask questions. Where's our money going? Why is this happening? Right? If any other, business or corporate business, you have to provide disclosure. So there's a lot going on, and I have to wonder, once upon a time, people did it for civic duty, and what it appears now is that councillors are there because they've got a hand in the pie. Right? They've got a hand in the pie. And we saw that when the administrator was brought in, to our council. So I won't go into the details there, but, people aren't doing it like once upon a time. Like I said, people were doing it as a part of their civic duty. People are doing it now because there's either an agenda where you've got labor councillors in on our council, and that should never be allowed because they will be touting a party line, and they won't be in it first and foremost for the communities. They're touting a party line, and this is what you're seeing, and you're seeing this played out with regards to like climate change agenda initiatives, et cetera, and these are being played out by these labor councillors, right? Because they're just following a party line, unfortunately.
You've been very supportive of the independents. Thank you very much. What values or actions are you seeing from them that offer you hope for the future?
Well, I think that it's accountability. Especially there's significant funding that comes in from both state and federal. governments. And I think our communities just want accountability, and they want to be heard. And I think these new councillors are making these individuals accountable. Like once upon a time, it was 9 to 2, and motions just passed through, and it was quickety click, Barbara trick. But I think these new councillors that have come in are using their extraordinary education and skills. And I know, like Nick Elliott used to be the marketing manager of Perisher, so he's got a phenomenal skill set there. Like Ruben is an emeritus professor in vet science, and he's got a lot of background in like business and managing CEOs and whatnot.
He's
His
a mentor for CEOs.
Yeah, he is. He's a mentor, right? So you see that, and then you've got Luke Williamson with his phenomenal forensic accounting skills that he has. You've got Andrew with his more like technical skills in electrical engineering. His business skills as well. So you've got that. And who else do we have?
Bob.
Oh yeah, Bob and his
The
life.
longest running
Yeah,
mayor, I
yeah, 100%. So he brings deep insight into everything with his farm management and significant history that he has in the Bombala region. So we've got a phenomenal crew that is there, and they're able to challenge these agendas that have been filtering through, right? I think we want our money. We're like our rates have gone through the roof, and we want to know that it's not their money, it's our money. It's our money, and we want our money spent in the most efficient and effective way. And right now, it's not being spent in the most efficient and effective way. And there's no accountability, especially when we were supposed to have an audit. Like if I have a business, one of the very first things that we did when I was managing this hotel up in Perisher, along with my then partner at the time, was do an audit on what was going on. Where were the money leaks, so we could plug them, and that's how you run an efficient business. So, how do you honestly know where you're running a business if you don't do a review of your accounts, and that includes wages and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
No, I hear you.
I honestly think that the wages are killing us, and I don't think it's appropriate that a CEO makes over $400,000 a year for such a small electorate.
Yeah, it seems like we're very top heavy.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think you're absolutely right on those points of that. Yeah, a lot of people in these positions, they're never held to account.
Yeah.
When things go wrong, nobody calls them out. Until recently, for instance, with the Kuma water tank collapse.
Yeah.
We still don't even know who gave the orders to fill it.
Yeah.
A lot of people still haven't been remediated.
Yeah.
So many problems in this area, and they've never apologized once to the community. We don't even know the people behind these disasters.
Yeah. But legally, if they apologize, then they can be liable. So that's why nobody apologizes, but they are responsible, and we've got to do better. But I think that also, maybe our communities need to, this whole de-amalgamation might be a solution. It's one thing that I think Rocky Harvey has been putting forward as well. That is an excellent solution. I do know that Gundagai was the very first council in New South Wales to de-amalgamate. I just spoke with one of their electorate recently, and that's going to take another 4 years to come to fruition. But I think that being such a separate product, like we're a tourism product. They're, like Bombala's of farming. Bombala have already proven that they can exist on their own. They don't need the Cooma Council, to be quite frank. They don't need that. So I think that that's our best bet, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's your personal vision for Jindabyne over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, the thing is that I would like to see accountability with developments that come to our area, and not be all jammed in. People need space, and we need to think cleverly about, because people live here year round. Like my neighbors on either side are from the city. One's from Sydney, one's from Melbourne. They come down during winter, not much throughout the rest of the year, and the property is left derelict. The grass is uncut, or, there's leaves everywhere and debris. And we have fire seasons that come in. Like we had a very catastrophic fire hit us in 2019. Like we need to start looking at our communities and really planning, and not just approving developments when they come in. Like, actually, where's the damn plan? Where, I don't think it's good enough to say we need more houses. We have to say, is this a best fit for the community? And that's the same with Calcite. The development that was going to go in there. I mean, the road is almost like a single lane road, so to add significant amount of traffic to the region. I know our region needs to go ahead, but we need to make sure that it's a good fit for the people that are living there, right?
What's the biggest hindrance, you think? Is it resources, willpower, leadership, experience?
I just think that it's a Cooma-centric council, and they really don't give a shit about Jindabyne, to be quite frank. You drive down the main street of Cooma and you see it nicely landscaped, and you come to Jindabyne and it's not that at all. Like right now, there's a development. So in the, there was a council went and put together a paper to locate all the cycling trails, right, around our area, and assets, and mark them, and, write about them. So there's one that goes up along the ridge, which is from the oval. There's two massive, there's the rugby league oval and the soccer oval. So it's called the Ridge Trail, and it has extraordinary views over all of Jindabyne. And it was listed as one of Jindabyne's top assets, in the top 3, right? What did they do? They allowed a development to go in there that, one, blocked out the view, okay? And then the development dumped all of their waste and rubble right over our single trail, mountain bike trail. So we had to divert the trail. Locals had to come out. We had to remove bits of branches and trees and whatnot to get that functioning again. I mean, this is our land. This is council land that rubble was just allowed to apparently just be dumped on. It's like a dump.
There's
and
a whole lot of that happening around this.
Well, it's decisions like this. So where is the accountability there? Where's the accountability? They have just ruined they spent all this money doing an asset, what do you call it? An asset inventory. That's right. Like an asset inventory. And so they say, hey, this is the number 3 asset for tourism in Jindabyne. And then they allow it to be blocked out the view, and they allow waste to be dumped in our reserve. Okay. Really? Council, you can do better than this. It's a disgrace. These places are left empty, And then another thing, we've got the bogone moth that immigrates every year, to the mountains. Okay. And that was a major delicacy for a lot of indigenous people that would come up and harvest these boggon moths. And in fact, my lodge is named after the boggon moth, right? And we worked as a community before. Can you make sure you turn your lights down? And then you have buildings that have just been built down, like this one down the road, with lights on 24/7, fluorescent lights that should be in a city. They're not even appropriate for a country town like this. This is not a city. This is a different product. And people move here because of the bigger spaces. They if they wanted to live in a city, they would have stayed in Sydney or stayed in Melbourne or stayed in Canberra. Okay, and they have to realize that when they come to these regions, that people have been here. They like their open spaces. They like their freedom. And another thing that I'm really quite cranky about is that council have done a massive overreach, and they've put cannot drink around town signs, okay, everywhere. I mean, it's infuriating. On my street alone, I think there's 7 signs. 7 signs on one street. You can't drink between this hour and this hour, right? Come on. So why did those signs go in? So when you bring up council, you find out, well, there was bottles lying everywhere. Well, why was there bottles lying everywhere? Well, there was bottles lying everywhere because they cut the recycling services. So we used to get, like I heard that the Woolworths in Jindabyne is one of the largest, makes one of the largest profits in Australia. Okay. Now, for such a small area. Okay, so there's a lot of recycling. We go from literally 4,000 to 40,000, our region, and council have cut back on our recycling services. So you know what was going on? The bins were filling up. They were blowing over. They were getting so full that the cans were blowing out and blowing down the road. But did council ever stop to ask what the problem was? No, they just assumed that people were walking up the street and throwing their beer bottle over their shoulder, which was not the case, and it's really infuriating to everybody, and it's insulting to people who live here. Most people, guess that I have, and even the younger generation is very respectful. I've seen the younger generation picking up the darn beer bottles, right, that have blown out of the bin. Not once have I ever seen someone chuck their rubbish, right? So, that's where we're sitting at the moment, unfortunately. And,
What would you say to other locals who are feeling fed up as well, but don't know how to get involved?
Well, everyone needs to do their civic duty. And I think it's really important because otherwise our communities fall apart. I mean, your civic duty could be just checking in on your neighbor. Like I had an elderly neighbor. I checked in on him twice a day. Sometimes I would make meals. I would bring over meals to him, sit with him, but it doesn't have to be actually just getting involved with the council, right? It can be other things in your community, but getting involved and also being prepared for those people that are controversial, like Andrew, because he is I think he's a really important part of our community. I think he's a critical part because he is able to uncover things that nobody else would tackle, and we need these people in our community, and we can't be just shutting him down or listen to what he has to say. I think he's done some incredible work on council so far with the motion that they brought through recently with the Micalago quarry. So that was an incredible win there because that really was devastating for that family. And we want answers. We want our communities healthy and prosperous. And when we have a handbrake, a council with a handbrake, and they've got their own hands in the pie and they're eating the pie, then we need somebody strong to ask questions, And you know what? We all make mistakes. Every single one of us makes mistakes, including myself. So I think it's just being adult and like accepting those controversial views, whether you like them or not, and watching it play out and hold space for these people, for every one of them. Like everyone means well in our communities. I'm sure of it, but just don't go down the emotional, and immature and unprofessional ways of acting in your community. Be a leader. It takes a lot to be a leader. It means pulling up your big boy pants and your big girl pants and giving space to someone else's ego and giving space to someone else's opinion. This whole thing that has been playing down on council where they just, are shutting down free speech. They're shutting down someone's ability because they don't like it. They don't like what they have to say. Well, this is a public forum, and if they can't handle criticism or they can't handle those opinions, they should not be a counselor in our area one bit, 100%.
Wow.
Mm.
Well said, Shawny. Well said. So
also, just one last thing as well. I'm really angry that the airport in Cooma years ago, that was sold for just over $300,000 to quite a wealthy businessman, and I'm sick of seeing these decisions. I'm sick of our assets being sold, like the old age center in the old age centers.
I don't think it was even sold. I think it was given away.
Yeah.
What's next for you and your resort? What's on the horizon?
Any
final words?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, my mom is not in a good place. She's around 90 years old. So my concentration will be her over the next couple of years. I've had a great time here in Jindabyne. Like it's literally been a 30-year affair, on and off for 30 years. But my kids grew up here, had some amazing friends and family. So right now it's I'm in that position now to just I have to look after my fam, like my mom. Really, that's her over the next couple of years, see where we go. But I'm sort of taking a back seat, and I'm happy to help out where I can. But my big wish is that our communities will set their differences aside and please come together for the residents here because they deserve it.